The world as it is versus the world as it should be. Isn't that what this whole healthcare reform initiative is all about? Single Payer would call upon all sectors of our society to co-finance a universal healthcare fund for all Americans. In today's complex world, no problem has an easy solution. Complexity requires that any reform effort take into account the obvious. Obvious point number 1. The private healthcare insurance model cannot be fixed. It should be replaced, not perpetuated, in our healthcare reform legislation. Private health insurance. Replace what does not work. It's a business that operates on a negative premise. We pay for something they don't want to do. That, in and of itself, makes no sense. Private health insurance prospers from 2 operational dysfunctionalities. 1, divide and conquer. 2, fear. It can't be avoided. Private health insurers create a fragmented risk pool. For one, our population is divided between insurers. Within the insurer, we are divided up further between policies, where employees from Company A belong to one policy group, Company B to the next, and so forth. Further, our very lives are divided between insurers as our life circumstances and health change. When healthier and younger, we may be with insurer A, but when we move to get that great job, we are dropped by insurer A and taken up by insurer B. As we get older, we are seen as relatively more risky to insure, and because who is insuring us today is not who was insuring us when we were younger, our new insurer feels justified to charge us more for coverage. Worse yet, private insurance traps us into a vicious cycle, where because we fear the financial consequences of illness, we decide to pay for a health insurance policy. Someone in our policy group gets sick, which forces up our health insurance premiums, which we decide to pay because we are afraid of the financial ramifications of illness. In effect, we're trapped. And the irony of it all is that both our government, teamed up with the health insurance lobby, is trying to make the health crisis our fault. After all, isn't it our responsibility as Americans to ensure our health? Wouldn't it make sense to force our responsibility onto us by making it mandatory to buy health insurance? After all, isn't that what we do already with our cars and homes? But is the healthcare crisis our fault? Or could it be that the health crisis is a result of a fundamental confusion between healthcare as a commodity and therefore something we're responsible for purchasing, or healthcare as a right, something that guarantees all Americans access to, irrespective of our ability to pay? Health insurance? Health insurers? Healthcare is a commodity. Single payer? Healthcare is a right. Under the private health insurance model, how do we access healthcare services? Well, under the insurance rules of our provider, of course. Under the single payer approach, you would access healthcare based on the advice of your practitioner. In the private health insurance model, what is the essential factor that guarantees your access to healthcare? Money. M-O-N-E-Y, and without it, you're out of luck. In the single payer model, it is not money that decides what treatment you'll receive, but what your health requires. But for argument's sake, let's side with the health insurance lobby and presume that healthcare is a commodity that can only be responsibly accessed by our ability to pay. Is making health insurance mandatory no different than our obligation to carry car insurance or homeowners insurance? The answer is no. 3 words, just 3 words, embody the fundamental differences between automobile, homeowners insurance, from health insurance. They are affordability, replaceability, probability. With respect to the question of affordability, let's look at some numbers. In 2009, national healthcare spending is expected to reach $2.5 trillion. That would represent 17.6% of our nation's gross domestic product, or GDP. By 2019, that's in just 10 years, folks, healthcare costs are expected to practically double to $4.4 trillion. In 2008, employer-paid health insurance premiums represented 14 to 18% of median household incomes. That means our employers have to pay private insurers anywhere from 14 to 18% of the value of our salaries to keep us covered. Now let's look at the health insurance costs in the context of a household budget. In my case, 2% of my salary covers my auto insurance. An additional 2% covers my homeowner's insurance. Per the 2005 census, 17% of median household incomes is used to pay for housing. Well, in my case, that's pretty close. Where housing costs are at 17% and employer-paid health insurance premiums are at 14%, this means that paying for health insurance represents 80% of what I pay to keep a roof over my head. Conclusion on affordability: auto and homeowners insurance do not present as great a burden to carry as health insurance and are, relatively speaking, more affordable. When health insurance payments, on the other hand, begin to rival what a median income earner pays on their mortgage, I think you can call into question its affordability. With respect to the question of replaceability, simply put, property and people are not alike. You can replace a car when its repair starts to cost too much. You can downsize from a larger home if you can no longer afford it. But the human body, you only get one per lifetime, and there's the rub. When health services are treated as a commodity, we're trapped into paying what it takes to keep ourselves alive or someone we love alive. Conclusion on replaceability: cars and homes are replaceable. People are not, and that has implications on what health insurers can demand from us to get coverage. With respect to the question of probability, cars and homeowners insurance protect us against eventualities, that eventual car accident or burglary or natural disaster. People's health, on the other hand, needs to be insured against the inevitable. We're bound to get sick, and as you get older or become old, we're bound to require costlier health services. Auto and homeowners insurance protect against eventualities. Illness, on the other hand, will inevitably express itself in your policy risk group. This has implications for the costs of health insurance. The private healthcare insurance model cannot be fixed. It should be replaced, not perpetuated in our healthcare reform legislation. True healthcare reform means no backdoor deals between government and the private healthcare lobby on what to do with our reform. Oppression comes in many forms. Just because we have an industry that has evolved over time and perfected its ability to extort payments from us does not mean the system of oppression must be immortalized by our government in our healthcare reform legislation. Our nation was built on throwing off oppression. We fought for and won our independence from an overseas monarchy. Certainly, we can free our healthcare system from the oppressive dynamics of the health insurance industry. Support single payer. Take a position and join the debate.